Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Welcome to all of you out there in cyberspace, wherever you are. I was just talking to Maria, a guest of ours who just came in to hear for the first time, and we were talking about sound and how important it is. You know, how everything that we've learned from hearing, more than just, reading a billboard or something. We really learn from hearing. And I made the point to her that if you think back when you learned your language, when you were a baby and you learned your language, you didn't have like diagrams, and sentence structures and all these things. You just learned by hearing the basics. That's the potency of sound, and the potency of transcendental sound, which is what the Srimad-Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita and all transcendental literatures are. They wake the soul up from our slumber. Jeev Jago, Gora Chandra Bole. Lord Chaitanya said, wake up, sleeping souls, wake up. And this is what it means. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Sanatana Goswami is one of the great spiritual authorities in our line of authority, and he compiled a prayer glorifying the book that we're going to be reading today. And by hearing this prayer, and we read it every day, not just for you, it's not just special for you, we read this every day. And thanks. Thanks. I thought you were going to stop us from getting something. There's so much stuff going around. I can't afford to get it. Okay, Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram by Sanatan Goswami. And it goes like this. Sarva Sastabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprida. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwan Doditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshaksharayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madhika Bandho Matsangin, Madguro Man Mahadana, Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya, Mad Anandana Mostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin, Atinicho Chatakara, Hanospuda. To the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave your voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we've reached the 11th canto, 3rd chapter, 23rd verse. We've been hearing from the Nava Yogendras, the 9 sons of Rishabdev, who became Paramahansa saints sages, rishis. And we're hearing now from the third of the 9, Antariksha, and he just was explaining how he explained the material, how hard it is to overcome, and how the way to overcome it is to hear submissively from spiritual authority. Now we're at text 23. A sincere disciple, so we heard a lot about the spiritual master, maybe we're going to hear something about the disciple today. Okay. A sincere disciple should learn to disassociate the mind from everything material and positively cultivate association with the spiritual master and other saintly devotees. He should be merciful to those in an inferior position to him, cultivate friendship with those on an equal level, and meekly serve those in a higher spiritual position. Thus he should learn to deal properly with all living beings. Purport. Srila Madhvacharya has quoted from the Garuda Purana to demonstrate that within this universe, those who take birth as demigods, great rishis, or pious human beings are all considered santas, or saintly persons. According to Bhagavad Gita, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, the Varnashram culture described in Vedic literature deals mostly with the living entities that material happiness can be achieved only through pious works. In this sense, the demigods are to be considered the most pious living entities within the 3 modes of material nature. The rishis, or the great saintly mystics of the universe, who are able to travel at will to various planets and who cultivate mystic powers, are to be considered somewhat below the demigods, and those human beings on earth who perfectly execute the Vedic rituals are to be considered in the 3rd or lowest category of santas, or saintly persons. But a devotee of the Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26, Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature. I thought he was going to be more polite. Sounded like he was going to a little more polite. Sometimes they just hit it and just don't stop. We call that the conch shell of Maya, or illusion, trying to call us away from Krishna. Thus, Lord Krishna clearly says that a Vaishnava who does not fall down from the regulations of Bhakti Yoga is beyond the 3 modes of nature. And Lord Krishna advised Arjuna, a Krishna Bhakta, to transcend the 3 material qualities of the illusory creation of Maya, Nistraigunyo Bhavarjana. But in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 1840, the Lord says, Natad asti prativyam va dividevi va punaha satvam prakriti jar muktam yad ebi syat tribir gunaya. There is no being existing, either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary system, who is free from the modes of material nature. So we all got to go through it. In other words, we all got to go through it. Thus, the demigods are not exempt from the pollution of the 3 modes of material nature, whereas a pure devotee actually becomes gunatita, or transcendental to the influence of Maya. Wouldn't that be nice? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Therefore, one should cultivate the association of the Uttama Adhikari, or pure devotee of the Lord, as stated previously. Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasyu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahman Upashumashayam. Therefore, any person who seriously desires real happiness must seek a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of the bona fide guru is that he has realized the conclusions of the scriptures by deliberation and is able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, should be understood to be bona fide spiritual masters. On the other hand, one should avoid the association of a materialistic person, even if such a person is outwardly chanting the holy names of Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami is advised in this respect, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pranitibishta bhajantam isham shushushaya bhajana bhigyamananayam ananyamanya nindadi shunya ridham ipsidasangalabdya. One may mentally offer respect to any living entity who is chanting the holy name of Krishna, but one should avoid intimate association with materialistic persons, especially those attached to sex enjoyment. Tamodwaram yoshitam sangi sangam. If one associates with sensuous persons who are attached to the company of women, by such association, one will surely go to hell. But if a materialistic person approaches a pure devotee with a sincere desire to hear from him about spiritual improvement, that first-class devotee may mercifully give his association, provided the purpose of such a meeting is advancement in the devotional service of Krishna. By such association, even a materialistic person can gradually become a pure devotee of Krishna. If an advanced devotee is not able to engage a materialistic person in the devotional service of Krishna, such association is strictly forbidden. In the Garuda Purana it is stated, Visheshatak satomeshu bina sangam namuchyate swanicheshu tudeveshu bina sangam napuryate. One cannot be liberated without association with a pure devotee of the Lord. And unless one shows mercy to those in an inferior position, one's life will be superficial. It is our practical experience in the Krishna consciousness movement that those who are expanding their mercy by preaching the message of Krishna are making rapid spiritual progress, and their life is filled with transcendental bliss. Those who neglect the quality of mercy, being uninterested in the missionary activities of the Krishna consciousness movement, are not filled with transcendental pleasure, as described here by the word puryate. Not being filled with spiritual pleasure, surely such persons attempt to fill their lives with material pleasure through sense gratification and mental speculation, associating with women or reading innumerable mundane novels, newspapers, news magazines, and so on. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the preaching activities of the Krishna consciousness movement are anandam buddhi vardhanam, the ever-increasing ocean of bliss. Missionary activities are based on the principle of dayam, or mercy, to those who are fallen. Those who are actually preaching become enlivened by associating with other preachers. This principle is called maitrim, or friendship among equals. The power to carry such preaching, to power to carry out such preaching activities, as well as the proper guidance for distributing Krishna's message, comes through the principle of prashayam, or humble service at the lotus feet of the spiritual authorities, such as the spiritual master. If one preaches Krishna consciousness sincerely under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master and in the company of fellow preachers, one is perfectly fulfilling the statement of this verse of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and thus he will come to the point of sarvato manaso sangam, or complete detachment from the illusory energy of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has stated, Lavamatra sadhu sange sarva siddhi hoy. By becoming attached to the devotees of the Lord, one will achieve all perfection in life, going back home, back to Godhead. If one neglects the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by engaging in sinful life, he is certainly not merciful. One who ignores his eternal status as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who instead covers himself more and more with material illusions in the form of temporary designations, I am American, I am Russian, I am Indian, I am black, I'm white, and so on, is certainly a killer of his own soul and cannot be considered merciful. Similarly, those who support animal slaughter by eating meat, fish, and eggs cannot be considered merciful. Sometimes the argument is given that if one does not harm others, he is perfectly religious. But because we are now in a state of ignorance, we have no idea whatsoever of the future reactions of our present activities. Ignorantly boasting that one is not harming others without an awareness of the subtle laws of nature does not make one a religious person. As long as a living entity is infatuated with his own mental speculations, which carry him away like the waves of the ocean, he cannot understand the process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mental speculations based on our experience of the variegated creations of the Lord's illusory energy are incapable of bringing us to perfect knowledge. One must give up materialistic association and make company with pure devotees of the Lord, who are engaged 24 hours a day in perfectly pleasing the Supreme Lord. One should cultivate association with those who are more advanced than oneself in devotional service. One's advancement can be measured by one's detachment from sense gratification and his ability to distribute Krishna consciousness to others. In this connection, Srila Narottam Das Thakur has said, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Bhaya Chakeva. Who can attain salvation if he gives up the service of the Vaishnavas? By serving the lotus feet of pure devotees, one is immediately enlightened with spiritual knowledge. All of the so-called pleasures of the material world, culminating in many varieties of sexual fantasy and impersonal visions of oneself as God, become useless to one who has achieved the mercy of the lotus feet of a pure devotee of Krishna. The entire material creation is compared to an insignificant bubble in the ocean. Can you hear that again? The entire material creation is compared to an insignificant bubble in the ocean. The material universe rests on the spiritual potency of the Lord, called Brahmajyoti, just as an insignificant bubble rests on the potency of the unlimited ocean. By serving the lotus feet of a pure devotee, one can enter the ocean of eternal happiness and experience his constitutional position as a servant of Krishna. The mercy of the Vaishnavas is unlimited, and one who has tasted that mercy becomes mad after the lotus feet of Krishna, not caring for the hallucinations of so-called material pleasure or mental speculation. The mercy of the Vaishnavas is substantial and as powerful as Krishna himself, whereas impersonal speculations and hopeless dreams of society, friendship, and love merely and keeps them in perpetual frustration. To serve the spiritual master, the disciple should learn cleanliness, austerity, tolerance, silence, study of the Vedic knowledge, simplicity, celibacy, nonviolence, and equanimity in the face of material dualities, such as heat and cold, happiness and distress. Purport. Shocham, or cleanliness, refers to both internal and external purity. One should remain externally clean by bathing at least once, and if possible, 3 times daily. One is considered internally pure when he is free from the pollution of false pride and egotism. Tapa, or austerity, means that despite the irrational impulses of the mind, one should remain fixed in executing his proper duty in life. Specifically, one must control burning anger and the urge for wanton sex life. If a human being does not control the impulses of lust, anger, and greed, he loses his power to understand his actual situation. Human life is a golden opportunity to solve the overwhelming problems of birth, death, old age, and disease. According to the Vishnu Purana 3.8.9, Varnashrama Charavrata Vata Purushena Parak Puman Vishnur Aradyate Panta Nanyata Tochakaranam. Every human being can achieve spiritual perfection by dedicating the fruits of his prescribed work to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita 18:45, Lord Krishna clearly states, Sway sway karmanya bidata sangsiddhim labhate naraha. One does not have to adopt a monastic life or live in the forest as a yogi. One can achieve perfection by dedicating his occupational duties to the Supreme Lord. Similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, Namashraya kari yatane tumi takahaha apana kaje. If one sincerely takes shelter of the holy name of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he will achieve spiritual perfection within the compass of his normal daily activities. Unfortunately, if a human being neglects the regulated principles of civilized life that prohibit illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling, he will surely be overwhelmed by the waves of lust and anger, which completely cover one's consciousness of the reality of spiritual life and draw one to engage in the phantasmagoria of the temporary material body. As Lord Krishna has stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3:39, Avritam jnaname tena jnanino nityabhayarina kama rupena konteya dushpurena nalena cha. Thus a man's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Therefore, the word tapa, or austerity, in this verse indicates that one must remain in his prescribed duty and not become impatient or unregulated due to the waves of lust, anger, and greed. The word titiksham, or tolerance, indicates that a transcendentalist must be forgiving. The material world is full of embarrassing and irritating situations. Should we have a show of hands that ever experienced any embarrassing or irritating situations in this world? Yeah, like everybody's got both hands up. The material world is full of embarrassing and irritating situations. And unless one is inclined to be very much forgiving, he will become infected by a vindictive mentality, which spoils one's spiritual consciousness. Maunam, or silence, means that one should not speak of worthless or frivolous topics, but should discuss the actual issues of human life, such as going back home, back to Godhead. Remaining completely silent is a symptom of ignorance. A stone is silent due to a lack of consciousness. Since every material thing has its spiritual counterpart, Vedic Shastras contain negative and positive injunctions. Corresponding to the negative injunction against speech is the positive injunction that one should always speak about Krishna. Satatam, kirtyanto mam. One should always speak about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, glorifying His holy name, fame, pastimes, entourage, and so on. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam it is also stated, Shotavyak kirtitavyascha jayak pujas chanityada. One should always hear about, glorify, meditate upon, and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In the 21st verse of this chapter it was stated, Shabde pari chanishnatam. The bona fide spiritual master is expert in Shabde pari, or the transcendental sound vibration, describing the spiritual world. One cannot artificially remain empty-headed or speechless. I'll read that one again. This is a good one. One cannot artificially remain empty-headed or speechless, as advocated by foolish proponents of concocted systems of meditation and yoga. But one should be so absorbed in the loving service of Krishna and so lovingly attracted to praising Krishna that one has not a single moment free to speak nonsense. But one should be so absorbed in loving service to Krishna and so lovingly attracted to praising Krishna that one has not a single moment free to speak nonsense. That is the purport of the word monam. Brilliant. Swadhyayam means that one should study Vedic literature according to his individual ability and also teach others. In the Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned that a Brahmana should have the qualities of jnana and vijnana, scriptural knowledge and practical, realized application of knowledge. You want to hear that again? Oh, okay. All right. In the Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned that a Brahmana should have the qualities of jnana and vijnana, scriptural knowledge and practical realized application of knowledge. Specifically, one should study those books which increase one's desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His Divine Grace Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajacharya Ashrotarasata Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has written in a few short years a veritable library of transcendental knowledge. It is being practically seen throughout the world that when the principle of swadhyayam, or Vedic study is applied to these books, such as Srimad-Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the Nectar of Devotion, the sincere reader becomes infused with the ecstatic determination to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness is expanding all over the world on the basis of this transcendental literature. Swadhyayam does not indicate speculative or imaginative interpretations. I'm sorry, I can't. Where we're at. This is for my offering, and definitely is going to go into the offering. Definitely. Without a shadow of a doubt. This one's going in. Okay. Found the right spot. And what was that? That was 11, 3?
24.
What?
24.
24. Sorry for wasting time. I just couldn't miss that one. So good. The entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness is expanding all over the world on the basis of this transcendental literature. Swadhyayam does not indicate speculative or imaginary interpretations of religious scriptures, nor should one try to read many books to increase his false prestige as a so-called scholar. One should read those books which inspire practical spiritual advancement in knowledge and renunciation, as exemplified by the books of Srila Prabhupada. The word arjavam indicates simplicity or straightforwardness. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, swachchatam, or clarity, transparency, is a synonym for straightforwardness. Unless one is pure in consciousness, he will adopt many crooked means. Straightforwardness does not indicate that one should insult others in the name of honesty, but that one should speak the humble truth. The word brahmacharyam, or celibacy, indicates either renouncing completely the association of women or following strictly the Vedic principles of householder life, which regulate sex life for the purpose of procreating saintly children. Ahingsam indicates that one should not commit violence against any living entity. Unless one is aware of the subtle laws of karma, by which a living being enjoys and suffers, one cannot, or non-violence. Ultimately, the material world is full of violence, and the laws of nature, which impose old age, disease, and death upon every living creature, are themselves filled with violence. Therefore, if somehow or other one can convince others to surrender to Krishna and thus release themselves from the violent laws of material nature, that is the perfection of ahimsa. Samatvam dvandvam samgyayo indicates that one should keep a cool head. Honest John's got a cool head. Samatvam dvandva samgyayo indicates that one should keep a cool head even when disturbing material dualities become manifest. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 2:14, Matra sparshas tikonteya shitoshna sukadukadaha agama payino nityas tangstitikshasva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Text 25. One should practice meditation by constantly seeing oneself to be an eternal, cognizant spirit soul, and seeing the Lord to be the absolute controller of everything. To increase one's meditation, one should live in a secluded place and give up false attachment to one's home and household paraphernalia. Giving up the decorations of the temporary material body, one should dress himself with scraps of cloth found in rejected places, or with the bark of trees. In this way, one should learn to be satisfied in any material situation. Purport. Kaivalyam, or living in a secluded place, indicates a place free from material disturbances. Therefore, one should live in the association of Vaishnavas, where the common goal is advancement in Krishna consciousness. Especially in the Kali Yuga, if one tries to remain physically isolated from all others, the result will be degradation or insanity. Aniketatam means that one should not be intoxicated by the ephemeral satisfaction of one's home sweet home, which will vanish at any moment, by the unforeseen circumstances produced by one's previous activities. In this age, it is not actually possible to dress in tree bark, nor to wear mere scraps of cloth. Previously, human culture accommodated those practicing tapasya, or penances, in the interest of spiritual advancement. In this age, however, the most urgent necessity is for preaching the message. Therefore, it is recommended that Vaishnavas dress with clean and neat cloth, covering the body decently, so that the conditioned souls will not be frightened or repulsed by the severe penances of the Vaishnavas. In the Kali Yuga, the conditioned soul, you know why Dhritarashtra was born blind? You remember? Because his brother, when Vichurtivirya died untimely, the wife of Vichurtivirya called Vyasadeva, who was brother, and said, you have to impregnate his wives, because he no longer can, and there's need. Previously in Vedic culture, that was allowed. That was a law that was allowed. And Vyasadeva, he lives in the mountains, and he's not very beautiful actually. He's quite physically, he looks not so pleasant. So when the wife that he was going to impregnate saw him, she went, "Oh no!" and she closed her eyes, and as a result, Dhritarashtra was born blind. Yeah. In the Kali Yuga, so that's why I use that example, because it says here, therefore it is recommended that Vaishnavas dress with clean and neat cloth, covering the body decently, so that the conditioned souls will not be frightened or repulsed by the severe penances of the Vaishnavas. In the Kali Yuga, the conditioned souls are extremely attached to material sense gratification, and extreme austerities are not appreciated, but are instead considered abominable denials of the flesh. Of course, austerity is required for spiritual advancement, but the practical example set by Srila Prabhupada in successfully spreading the Krishna consciousness movement was that all material things should be used to attract people to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Vaishnavas may at times adopt ordinary dress to serve the higher principle of distributing Krishna consciousness. In any case, one should learn to be satisfied in any material situation so as to prepare for the moment of death. According to the Bhagavad Gita, at the time of death, the particular consciousness we have created in this life will carry us to our future situation. Therefore, human life can be seen as a type of practice for successfully fixing one's mind on the absolute truth during the severe trials of death. That's the point. All the things we have to go through, disease and people getting on our case, and all the social ills and economic problems and things that are going on now, is just Krishna's mercy to help prepare us. If we can keep ourselves Krishna conscious during these times, then when it comes to the crunch, the time when we have to leave the body, then we'll be able to keep ourselves in Krishna consciousness. And we've already noticed, at least I've noticed quite a few times now, when I've been with devotees who are leaving their bodies, even my mother, when she left, that Krishna will be there. There'll be devotees there to chant, and we went over to Guru Bhakti's father's room, and it was just so gorgeous. When Kirtidi left in Dallas, the room was like a spiritual world, This is the real opulence of being a devotee. That when it comes time for you to leave, you'll be surrounded by devotees, and they'll make the atmosphere really nice. That's real opulence. That's real love. (26). Okay, we'll stop there. It's 5:30. Have some reflections. This is a time when whatever you've heard, Maria, whatever you've heard, if you want to reflect on it, or you want more discussion on a certain point, or you want to ask questions, this is the time. We got a mic, and it's called our open mic session. Okay, who's going to start us off? There you go. Honest John is going to do it again.
On what you just said on the last part about, it was kind of a big complaint or a big deal with my grandparents when they were going through that their spiritual community they felt abandoned by them. And they didn't really pull around them. So I remember that was my grandfather's a big grievance. I don't know if grievance is the right
regret
word.
or
Yeah, exactly. Because they would just come by and serve the Eucharist and leave, pretty much. And he was lamenting that. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up. But that's a good thing about this tradition, that they're there with you in that hard time.
Yeah.
When you're passing to the next life.
Yeah, that's the real thing. That's the real opulence.
Okay,
Pranahari, go ahead.
I thought that was a really nice purport, talking about all those qualities that the disciple is supposed to develop to serve the spiritual master with. And it seems like seems so rudimentary in one sense. Matra Sparshas Tukonte, one of the first verses that we learn, and still it's the perfection of the practice of that is actually the whole thing at the time of death. That's the biggest upheaval. We have to give everything up. So somehow to be fixed amidst all these minor things, like you said, all these other things are just tests for that, and to really I mean, it also quoted that one verse, always remember, always glorify, always hear, always chant about Krishna. So it seems like that's the practice, and we just have to apply it to myself.
Yeah, and one thing I was thinking when I heard that was, when those things happen, whatever, and everything, something, make an effort to see it as Krishna's mercy. That's a practical step that we can take internally, to see it as Krishna's mercy. Because He's giving us just another opportunity to be able to remember Him under duress, or under happiness, under happiness. Sometimes when we get carried away also with good things that happen to us, we forget Krishna. My God, and we'll remember God. But then, when the good things happen, He goes out the window.
So is that a state of duality, Krishna's mercy, especially as practicing devotees?
Absolutely.
So that is to be considered Maya.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No question. No question. The things that are coming at you as Krishna's mercy. As we heard in the chapter, the prayers by the personified Vedas, it's the purpose of the material world, purpose of the creation of the material world, is to give us an opportunity to become, reclaimed. Yes, Sarva.
This medical seminar, wonderful hospice in Vrindavan, and one of the devotee doctors who was attending, said that he's a surgeon and he often sees when the medical condition of the patient is indicating that they don't have a long time to live. So he kind of wants to bring up some awareness of that to the family and the patient, but he said there's this social pressure of the higher up doctors to kind of do everything possible to make a person live, not help their consciousness.
Not even think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Forget it. Yeah, that's right.
It's kind of a battle in the material world too.
Yeah.
And Giriraj Maharaj was saying that for the doctors that can have that ability to help a person, not every doctor is comfortable, or not every devotee is comfortable helping another devotee, but we should learn that art.
Exactly, and in the beginning of the reading, remember, the idea came up about violent, not to do that. To stop a person to get something and do something or have something that is their right, their God-given right, that's violence. So the doctors are actually committing violence on the person on the plea of, helping them. Therefore, it's very difficult for an ordinary person to understand, because they take doctors and professors and teachers and political leaders, they take them, they naturally want to have faith, they naturally are following them. That's how come some really off-the-wall people get in and they can mislead the whole group of people.
The doctor was saying that the devotee doctor was saying a lot in the hospital room, and
Yeah, they come with them to watch the TV with them, and that's what it means. I remember when I went to take care of my mother after, when it was actually diagnosed as terminal. Then I made that decision, on the consultation of Shivar Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, to stay there until she left. And at first it was impossible to just stay Krishna conscious with her all the time. I had to sit and watch a couple of TV programs in the evening, but they were simple ones, Jeopardy or some simple game show or something. There was nothing heavy. But of course the commercials were heavy, and I couldn't even follow them. I hadn't seen TV in like 20 years, and it went from one scene so fast to another, I couldn't follow what was going on. What was that about? But eventually it came around to the point where she got so bored, and she had the same experience that your grandfather had, that her pastor, that she was actually attached to, a minister, was also having some political problems in the church, and he was trying to find another church, and he wasn't there, and Krishna arranged it, and I was the only one, only son. Her other relatives were so far away and so old they couldn't come there anyway. And so Krishna arranged it, and I just started reading to her the Krishna book, and I watched, literally, Prabhupada lift her out of that situation. It was so meaningful, so transcendental experience. Person who was inimical most of her life to what I was doing, hearing about Krishna from the Krishna book at the end, and then becoming a devotee. She became a devotee. Took initiation. Nandarani, Devi Dasi. She gets Shraddha every year on the day of her disappearance. She gets a Shraddha both in Govardhan Ashram and in Radhakund. So that's the test. Yes, Dr. Patrick. What you got there?
Well, you and Pranahari were speaking about, and a little bit of what the reading tonight was about. I was on books today, and it was difficult distributing books. It was like nobody was receptive at all, hardly. So I just kept pushing and pushing, and at one point I was starting to feel my body tired, and like just feeling like my knees starting to cramp up as I was walking around, because I walk so many circles around the mall. And I opened the Bhagavatam and read this verse in 1.6.10.
Good for you.
And it was Narada Muni speaking about his mother being bitten by a serpent. And then he says, I took this as a special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees. And so thinking, I started for the north. And then the purport was very short but very sweet. It says, confidential devotees of the Lord see it in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. What is considered to be an odd or difficult moment in the mundane sense is accepted as special mercy of the Lord. Mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever, and by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished, and spiritual health is obtained step by step. Mundane people misunderstand it. And I just took that to just keep driving.
And then what happened? You met some nicer people after that, right?
I didn't distribute more books, but I did. I distributed a few more books, but I did.
That sometimes happens.
I felt ecstatic, so it was just...
So that's the main thing.
Yeah, I just kept taking it.
Yeah. Very nice. That was very nice. I especially appreciate sometimes when you feel like that, you just pick up one of Prabhupada's books and just open up and start to read it, and problem solved immediately. And it's like that all the time. If we develop the habit, especially when we're out distributing books, it's tough. It's very tough, especially in some of these malls, and people are like so. Especially now, it's after Christmas, and everybody's disappointed. They got what they didn't want. And they're trying to make up for whatever they're doing now. Yeah, it's not a very, it's not such a good time of the year in some ways. It's good. Just pick up the book and just sit down wherever you are and just read for a few minutes, then get up and look around, and you see the world differently, just like that. Use the tools Prabhupada gave us, and it will be good.
The French guy that came, he's in the temple, so he just texts.
Oh, is he coming?
He didn't know we had reading at 4.
Oh. Francois.
Yeah.
Francois.
Okay, we have Shweta Dweep left a comment online.
Okay, Shweta Dweep.
Make sure there's no more.
We miss you. Shweta Dweep, we miss you.
He says, Shweta Dweep says, I liked 25th purport, how the teachings by sage Antariksha is presented according to current time, It is not possible to dress like described in this verse, but the purport nicely points out how to imbibe the principle mentioned here in this verse by preaching Krishna consciousness.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much. Truth be told, Prabhupada was very pragmatic. You know, he was very pragmatic when he came to America. You know, he saw what we were like and what the culture was like, what the morals were like and mores were like. And he adjusted things a little bit, you know, to make it easier for us. That's the duty of the Acharya. I read something recently in Chaitanya Charitamrita where Prabhupada said that duty of the Acharya is to time and circumstance adjust things so that, you know, it makes it easier for people to become Krishna conscious. What will work in one country may not work in another country. We adjust those things. Not that we adjust the basic principles, but the details, cultural, those kinds of things, they can be adjusted to make it easier for the people that we're preaching to take to Krishna consciousness. But I think that sweets are pretty universal. That's what everybody can relate to, prasadam. Anybody else out there in cyberspace?
I don't see anything else on here. No. I can check on my phone to again.
I got an appointment at 6.
Really?
Yeah. Did you know?
He was on his way.
Yeah. He's going to meet me at 6.
Nothing else.
Honest, John? You okay? We hope you get and there's a heavy thing going around, this heavy respiratory thing. Shamsundar was in the hospital. Yeah? He's out now, he's okay, getting better.
I'm taking inhalers, so it only comes once in a while. I try not to cough on people.
Oh, I read a little blurb, you know, that we talked about permafrost. You know about this? Permafrost are sections in the world where it's so cold that even if it gets a little bit better in the, you know, summertime or something, the base never thaws out, and then there's a permafrost, and it gets built up. So in Alaska, they built towns on this permafrost, and now what's happening? The climate change is starting to melt the permafrost, so the whole towns are just kind of, and they're finding out that there's all kinds of problems that can happen from this, but the biggest one, potentially, is that there are microbes that have been living in this permafrost for they don't even know how long, and they're finding out that they're still alive, and when they come out, when it melts and it comes out, they become so viral and so dangerous, and there's no human beings they don't have any way to protect themselves against these guys. They're like an army of, you know, yellow beret microbes, you know. What?
No, there's no immunity built up.
No, none. It's Hare Krishna. Sometimes I think because I'm old, maybe I'm gonna get out just in the nick of time before the whole thing blows up in our faces. Anyway, I hope I come back so that I can help whenever it is. But
Did you get a text from Winston?
just now?
Yeah. He wasn't coming, so he said, I hope he was watching the meeting.
Well, Winston, thank you very much for letting me know, because I double booked. And now Krishna protected me in my own mismanagement. I almost double booked, but now Winston's giving me I'm not with my
He was watching the meeting.
Oh, good. Winston, Hare Krishna, see you soon. So I'm going to stop here with the daily reading? One more.
I just
Abhay, please. We've been waiting for you all this time.
thank you. In this quality is the first one it's mentioned is tidiksham, it's tolerance.
Yes.
And it says that the material world is full of embarrassing and irritating situations, and unless one is inclined to be very much forgiving, he will become infected by a vindictive mentality which spoils one's spiritual consciousness.
How as good is that?
It's good. I was just wondering if you might be willing to
Elaborate on that?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have to elaborate. It was kind of self-evident. Read it again.
Tolerance indicates that a transcendentalist must be forgiving. The material world is full of embarrassing and irritating situations, and unless one is inclined to be visited by a vindictive mentality, which spoils one's spiritual consciousness.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty obvious. If somebody does something, either to you or one of your friends or whatever, negatively and take it wrongly without being able to see, people do things for different reasons. And usually a person misbehaves because there's something going on. Something happened to them that day, or they're going through a patch, or whatever. And sometimes people say or do things, and if you, when we went out in Sankirtan, sometimes you meet somebody, you say, "Hi, sir," and then you bite your head off. So, your wife kicked him out of bed or something. Something happened very bad to him. And you have to learn to just not let that get to you. And if you don't, and you deal with the person in a way that is vindictive, then it'll come back to you. Every single time it'll come back to you. And that will negatively impact your spiritual life. You won't be able to think of Krishna. You won't be able to think nicely of people. You won't be able to see the soul. Because, making spiritual advancement depends on us being able to see the soul. See through those material anomalies that everybody has in Kali Yuga. Everybody's got anomalies. It's like, what can you say? It's very rare to find kind of like a complete person in the Kali Yuga, So we should not be vindictive, ever. We should not. We should not begrudge people. We should not be vindictive. Don't hold grudges. When you hold a grudge over time, a lot of time goes by and you still hold this grudge, and you'll say something negative about the person, warn someone else about them, and they might have just changed completely by that time. It really ruins everything, actually, holding grudges. Okay, we'll stop now. Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. The Navyogendras ki jai. Antariksha ki jai. Lord Premanandi. Tomorrow's Monday, so we'll see you at 6 o'clock Central Time, right here in Radha Lane, the live studios, Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Hare Bol.